Hi everyone, I'm Linda Reimer, one of the librarians at the Southeast Steuben County Library. Welcome to Library Connections, our weekly readers and listeners advisory video cast. Enjoy. Library Connections number 113. This is the Friday, September 2nd, 2022 edition of Library Connections. Jumping right in with the top 5 fiction bestsellers for this week, as usual, from the New York Times. At number 1, It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. A battered wife, raised in a violent home, attempts to halt the cycle of abuse. At number 2, Verity by Colleen Hoover. Loan Ashley is hired by the husband of an injured writer to complete her popular series, and she uncovers a horrifying truth. At number 3, Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. In a quiet town on the North Carolina coast in 1969, a young woman who survived alone in the marsh becomes a murder suspect. At number 4, Love on the Brain by Allie Hazelwood. Heartbeats quicken and neurons fire when a pair of antagonistic scientists work together on a project. At number 5, Soul Taken by Patricia Briggs, the 13th book in the Mercy Thompson series. The disappearance of the vampire wolf and others might indicate the return of the harvester. Moving on to the top 5 nonfiction bestsellers for the week. At number 1, I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. And Linda still doesn't like that title, but I digress. About the book, the actress and filmmaker Jeanette McCurdy describes her eating disorders and difficult relationship with her mother. At number 2, Breaking History by Jared Kushner, an account of time spent in the Trump White House by the former president's son-in-law and senior advisor. At number 3, The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, how trauma affects the body and mind, and innovative treatments for recovery. At number 4, Diana, William, and Harry by James Patterson and Chris Mooney, a biography of the late Princess of Wales and her sons. And at number 5, Path Lit by Lightning by David Moranis, the life story of the Olympic athlete, All-American football player, and Major League Baseball player Jim Thorpe. Our first recommended read for this week is the brand new Stephen King novel, Fairy Tale. As the pandemic descended, King asked himself, what could you write that would make you happy? And here's the result, inspired by a sudden vision he had of an immense but empty, shattered city with life pulsing just beneath the surface. His protagonist is Charlie Reed, whose mother died in a hit and run when he was 10, and whose father subsequently disappeared into drink. At 17, self-sufficient Charlie befriends a dog named Radar and his crusty, reclusive master, Howard Bowditch, for whom he starts doing odd jobs. A cassette Bowditch leaves for Charlie at his death shares a secret. That funny shed at the back of his house contains a portal to another world, where a battle between good and evil is roaring. Boy and dog pass through the portal for the adventure of their lives. and that's the Library Journal Review. Our second recommended read for this week is the new Craig Johnson Longmire novel, Hell and Back. Nightmare out-of-body experience, time travel, and mental illness are all possibilities for a man who awakes knowing neither his name nor where he is. Sheriff Walt Longmire of Absaroka County, Wyoming, wakes up in a heavy snowstorm, frozen to the street. At first, his only reality is snow, the sound of bells, and $2 silver in his lap. Then he sees a sign for the Fort Pratt Industrial Indian Boarding School. His period of hell on earth starts with a visit to a restaurant staffed by a stunning blonde woman who looks familiar. She tells him his name, which is written in his hat's sweatband, and identifies their locale as Fort Pratt, Montana. His next interaction is with an enormous man whom the waitress can't see, a man dressed in the clothes of a mountain crow who departs with an enigmatic comment. The two meet again, while Walt, who's looking for a policeman, discovers a woman in a movie theater who again seems familiar, and a priest who claims to be researching a book on the Indian boarding school, where 31 children reportedly perished in a fire. In the meantime, Walt's best friend Henry Standing Bear and his deputy Vic Moretti come looking for him. Just like Walt, they keep running into the same people whose lives make no sense in a town where the time is always 8:17 p.m. After Walt manages to save the children from that fire, which took place many years before the time he seems to be living in, he gets locked in a desperate battle with a shape-shifting monster whose name just might be Death, a mystical thriller that offers a wild ride through a thoroughly altered reality. And that's the Kirkus Review. And I think we can honestly say, those of us who have read all the books in this series to date, this is a different one. And kudos to the author for trying something a little different, but still in the same thread. If you've read the other books, there is a mystical thread or two that runs through the series. Anyway, it should be a good book. Check it out. Our first audiobook recommendation for this week is a memoir. It's called Diary of a Young Naturalist. It's written and read by the author, Dara McNulty. In this stunning debut, Northern Irish 16-year-old conservationist and activist McNulty delivers a galvanizing love letter to nature. McNulty, who's on the autism spectrum, was often bullied in school and discovered that wildlife and the magnificence of nature made sense to him far more than other people. The author's lush prose and chants, as he chronicles a year of campaigning for climate justice and exploring the vastness of Northern Ireland's outdoors, witnessing its beauty in everything from a silver-crowned chatfinch with confetti flecks on its silver crown to the intricate flight patterns of bats, making strange angles as they take to the air to feed. Much like fellow activist Greta Thunberg, McNulty sees his passion for climate justice as his superpower. He writes about juggling school, meetings with the environmental minister at the London Zoo, and the emotional stress caused when the urgency of supporting collapsing ecosystems and protecting wildlife gets overtaken by human narcissism and insecurity. Even still, that doesn't stop him from calling out the hypocrisy politicians often show in the face of climate change. The minister made grandiose promises and plans that day, but where are they now, he asks. This book should be required reading. And that's the Publisher's Weekly Review. Our second audiobook recommendation for this week is Sparrow Hill Road, a fantasy novel written by Sienna McGuire, and the audio is read by Amy Landon. McGuire brings empathy, complexity, and a shivering excitement to this well-developed campfire tale. Many stories have been told about a hitchhiker, a young woman sometimes dressed in a prom dress or jeans and a t-shirt, who roams the highways in search of a ride. Rose Marshall is that hitcher, also known as the ghost of Sparrow Hill Road. Rose has two purposes. One is helping the newly dead make the transition between states, and the other is hunting down Bobby Cross, the man who killed her in order to gain immortality. This is the story of her death and her life. This mesmerizing tale had its beginnings in the short story The Edge of Propinquity. McGuire has smoothly turned it into a powerful blend of ghost story, love story, and murder mystery, wrapped in a perfectly neat package. And that's the Starred Publisher's Weekly Review. Also of note, on a reader's note, this is the first book in a trilogy, so if you like it, there's 2 more books to read in this particular vein. Want more reading, listening, and viewing recommendations? Check out the Tech and Book Talk blog, which offers weekly and monthly recommendations, and the back catalog of Library Connections videos found on the Southeast Bend County Library's YouTube channel. Moving on to our next section, Next Week at the Library, we'll take a brief look at the programs and events hosted by the library for the week ahead of us. This time around, that's the week of September 5th through the 10th, 2022. This information can also be found online. Just visit the library's website located at ssclibrary.org and click on the big bold calendar link you'll see near the top of our homepage. And on a registration note, registration is required for library programs unless otherwise specified, or unless the program is of the online on-demand variety, in which case everyone is immediately welcome. You can register for programs through the library's website, by calling the library, or just dropping by. On Monday, September 5th, the library is closed in observance of Labor Day. Have a great holiday. On Tuesday, September 6th, we've got one program in Library Land. It's the weekly Adult Scrabble, which is held in the library's reading room from 9 to 11 a.m. On Wednesday, September 7th, we have 2 programs at the library. The first is Mahjong, which is held in the library's reading room from 1 to 3 p.m. And then from 6 to 8 p.m., we have the weekly Corning Adult Writers Group, which is a hybrid program held both at the library and via Zoom, and you have to register for the program to get the Zoom link. On Thursday, September 8th, there are no programs at the library, so I'm going to take this opportunity to remind you that you can access digital content through the library apps Libby and Hoopla. Libby offers eBooks and downloadable audiobooks, and Hoopla offers instant checkout eBooks, audiobooks, TV shows, movies, albums, and comic books. So while you're hanging out at home on Tuesday afternoon or evening, or whenever you have a chance, check out Libby and Hoopla. On Friday, September 9th, the library will be closed for a staff training day, although there will be a debut of a new Library Connections episode at 1 p.m., both on Facebook and the library's YouTube channel. And briefly, here's a list of our library program's contacts. Should you have any questions about a program, let us know. And that's the program for this week. I'll be back next week with a new edition of Library Connections. Have a great holiday weekend.